think one of the most exciting things about the initiative is that it's going to be open access. So any of the providers in Missoula that are already using the limited fiber that's laid in the city are going to have access to this large network that has never been created anywhere. And I think the highest speed that we have, I think we have a 3T in Missoula. I think that's 300 megabytes per second. And they're talking about doing 1,024 megabytes per second. So that's a huge difference between 300 and 1,000. And no one's ever worked on a network like that. So there's the possibilities are really endless. And I think their ideas, they want to create new technologies and spur new ways to get that connection to people. So I think that's the most exciting thing to me. Is that it'll be spurring new technologies that don't exist.
I'm curious about how the two of you found out about the rally and why you're interested in it. Oh, you're with Monica.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys use social media or the internet, or would a faster connection affect you guys?
It would be a lot nicer at school, for sure, because the speed at school is so slow. We'll spend one whole class period trying to pull up one webpage for research, and it makes it really hard. I go to Hellgate. It's the same throughout every district, though. Like every school in the district, their internet connection is just so slow. And I mean, it is hard because then we can't watch like videos that we can watch for class, and we have to go do it at home. Sometimes some of us don't have the internet connection at home, so it'd be a lot nicer to have it at the school.
That's another benefit of the Google Fiber, that it would be available to individuals, so probably at a lower cost. So people that haven't been able to afford it, or have only been able to afford a really low quality connection, would have great access. Also, besides individuals, it could help a host of community organizations like schools, hospitals. At the meeting that the mayor's office had, there was a man from the library system talking about how high-speed internet connection could help them. So there's all kinds of organizations in the city that could really benefit from a higher speed connection.
There was a lot of talk of home-based businesses. I don't think I realized the number of home-based businesses. Just the number of people that talked at the meeting about how they use the internet to run their home-based business.
A lot of people we know are like that, or they work for a company that is located in another state, but because they have the internet, they can live in Montana and still work for that other company. So it allows Montana to have more job opportunities that way too, because it's bringing in jobs from other states basically by having a good connection.
The question I had was, you mentioned something about the cost. Is this an additional cost that would in essence be tacked on to a Quest or a Presidentville, or does Google come in as a standalone?
Well, I don't think that the materials online specifically say that. They talk about having a better internet connection at a lower cost. So they may be thinking about creating competition, but since it's an open access network, like Nathan mentioned, they want to let their network be used by all of the providers. So they're not looking to come in like you're going to have Google service instead of Verizon necessarily. You know, their network coming in might allow Verizon to offer lower rates because they'll be able to reach more people and get a better connection that way too. So there's maybe some competition components and maybe some shared access components that will just lower overhead costs for the current providers, because they're not asking the current providers to pay for the system. They want to put it in and then let other people use it.
It's my understanding they have unlimited resources. So for them to come lay fiber optic in a town of just like 50,000 people or 60,000 people like Missoula wouldn't be a big deal for their coffers. And that's why they want to do it in a smaller place, because they can lay a lot of fiber at a reasonable cost.
Did you say earlier that some is laid now?
Well, we do. I mean, we do have fiber, but we don't. Google hasn't laid that kind of fiber. We don't have that kind of fiber right now. I mean, it's a slower speed. It's definitely like. My understanding is the fastest that we have is called a 3T. I think that's what it's called. Or T3. Yeah, thank you. So they're talking about increasing that like 3 times, almost 3 or 4 times that. So nothing exists like that in this country as far as I know.
So, health concerns?
Of having more wireless.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because there's a distinction that needs to be made between wired fiber and wireless access. And the wireless is, John was mentioning that earlier, that there was a film festival had a film about wireless effects, especially on children, and that is not what the fiber would be. But the argument can be made if there is a good base of this high-speed fiber, maybe that could be something that wireless providers could build on, and that is a possibility. But Google's not going to come in and force us to have extra wireless service. If that is something that the community wants, we can, participate in that discussion on where things would go and how things would be dealt with and how much would come in and where it would be located. So the system that they want to put in doesn't give off the wireless frequency itself, but it could be a springboard for other wireless service to come in, which would then have to address the health concerns.
My question on that is that if you have a high fiber optic, huge wiring, you are basically, if you have a wireless and you are transferring the information, it goes extremely quickly onto that, and so that connection isn't open as long, I think, because that connection isn't always open between your computer and the modem. It's there, you can jump on it and you can bring things back and forth, but the bigger that wire is, the faster that's going to go through, and the shorter time it's going to be open. So I would think that there's a possibility that it's actually safer to have the higher.
You're talking about like your own home
wireless modem, wherever that
modem,
is,
right.
and you connect it to it. Is the danger when you are connecting and sending information, or is it because when it's just always open? Because it's not always open. It's not, it's on your computer. I don't know what that connection is. Maybe you don't know.
As far as the open access of it?
In fact, the danger of, it's not the information going through the kid's head. It's that connection that's being made
It's the broadcast of the
it's
wireless
the broadcast.
device, broadcasting a signal.
But it's also the returning stuff too. That's what I'm getting at. There's this open broadcast, which is this low frequency, and then when you connect to it, I think then it jumps up to this higher frequency, right? You see what I'm getting at?
Yep.
But I'm not 100% sure. So when you're connected to it and actually sending the information, is when more the danger is. It's like when you're talking on your phone, is actually when more the danger is than when your phone is sitting.
Something.
It's just sitting there,
Accessing that.
waiting for something to come in around. Does that make sense? I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not,
But see, that
kinda
would be
makes sense
something.
to me.
That would be something that makes sense. And I'm just talking about the rational end of it, but I may be an irrational answer. So who can answer that? That's a.
There are safeguards that are built into the Wi-Fi routers, like you can,
and they're doing more and more of that.
and you can, I imagine that however their network's set up, there's got to be safeguards to protect the data. I'm sure any fiber network is protecting their data. I'm sure that's one of the chief concerns. And if not, there's probably federal laws regulating that as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would think that more and more they're trying to get rid of that kind of thing. So once again, if that the bigger the fiber optics taking it through, the faster you're going to get that connection and get it done with. In a shorter time that's open. So, but I don't know for sure.
I'm most excited about what we haven't thought of, what things we don't even know that could exist because of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm most excited about. But I think Missoula could really also use it as a springboard to bring other businesses.
Whatever
here,
town,
especially Silicon Valley type businesses.
we won't use it as that. It'll become that.
Yeah.
Google is worldwide. As soon as they pick a town, that every magazine that covers anything about the internet or about computers, and then it's gonna go into Washington Post, New York Times. They're gonna, and the Obama administration, everyone is going to be watching that town to see what happens.
Yeah.
Everyone. And especially if they do this whole town, so that immediately puts people in California and everywhere that want to move out of their congested, huge town into a great space like this. It puts us on the map immediately, and there's no taking that spotlight away. That's the good thing and the danger.
Yeah.
How many towns are they choosing?
They've said definitely one, but it hasn't been limited to just one. I mean,
at least one.
they said at least one.
It's a huge. I mean, the whole town will be. Once people find out about the fact that this could change this town completely, you'll have people coming out against it absolutely all over the place. I've already talked to people that are totally against it. So because of that, because they understand the implications. There's already towns that look. There's already companies that look at this town. There's already people here that are wishing they had higher thing. And one of the Dresden guys said something really interesting. He said that. He says he really wants it to come in because he's up Miller Creek, and his company can't afford to pick that wiring up there. So what he's saying is, I'm downtown, I'm fine, I got my high speed, but when I'm home, I'm not. So that puts every business that wants their people to have a business downtown, but also be able to go home and work.
And that's me. I mean, I work for a web hosting company, and we have to be up 24/7. And if there's a problem, I want to make sure that I can get access to my
Absolutely.
network from home without having drive in at 3 in the morning and reset.
And you're streaming anything. The biggest thing right now that you can stream video-wise, you push a button at home and it'll play immediately with that kind of. If it's really that big as you said it was.
We live out by the airport, and we're only maybe 4 or 5 miles from fiber optic. And because of where we live, they'll never run it. And the only option is either dial-up or a satellite connection. So we, of course, have a satellite connection because we can't afford to have anything that's solar.
Like, I live out in Ventura, and it's really hard. My mom has DSL running, but it's still, I have to, if I go to watch a video on YouTube or something, I have to pause it and wait for about 10, 15 minutes before I leave and start to play.
Right.
And
That'll
it's just,
change
it
if
makes
you did.
even doing homework a hassle too, because in some of my classes I do have to go on like BBC and watch web posts and stuff like that, and it's a pain because I'm sitting there spending 2.5 hours trying to watch a video that should only take me like 10 minutes.
That's
And
why
then
it
there's
changes.
people that think that that's the norm, because that's all they know.
And they accept it,
And they think the internet sucks. So,
but it can be totally different. I mean, the implications are huge. Education, our hospitals that can start to reach out and actually do have doctors in other places that can watch a high quality, high definition operation in communicating. That's what they do.
Yeah.
But if they don't have that connection, they don't know it.
In larger cities, they actually do a surgeon can be in another place,
But they need
participating in the surgery.
a
because
high
of the technology.
definition connection.
Yeah.
That's what that would help our
No, it would help. I mean, it would help infrastructure, city,
town
government,
grow.
hospitals, schools, businesses, community.
If Missoula is selected, does anyone know how long it takes to put the fiber in?
it would be
It's going to be a 3 to 5 year
Yeah.
project.
3 to 5 years.
Probably. But we'll do it in 15, probably, or 20, and do it on our own. Because to keep up. So that's why, when does Missoula change? Now or 20 years? But it's going to change.
Right. Are you talking about the FCC initiative?
That too, yeah. That's a separate thing.
Because the FCC is recognizing that internet access is so vital to communications that it's willing to put it on the Universal Service Fund like it did with telephone service years ago. So it has a plan to make sure that people in the United States have high-speed internet connection because we need it. That's the way the world works today. That's the way people communicate. And like you were saying, it's going to happen. The FCC, it'll take them a long time to get it here. But it's going to come eventually. If we had the Google initiative, it would put us on the cutting edge instead of the last edge, like Missoula generally is.
But a lot of people in
For
Missoula
some
want to
things.
be on the last edge, so that's
Yeah.
that's going to be the fight.
That's a challenge.
I've already talked to 2 people who have businesses. They say they'll move because they know immediately that it'll change Missoula in 10 years. So there'll be a fight, but it's coming.
Yeah.
So do we want the spotlight? Because that'll be a spotlight. Right. Well,
So
are you guys-
we brought a few papers, made some copies of the actual application that you can fill out online. And if people want to take some extras and give them to their friends to fill out, that would be really
So
cool.
there's a week left before the application.
Friday is the last day. This next
March
Friday.
26th is the last day to go online. And so if you're in support of this, talk to your friends, let people know, tell them where to go online, and they'll need to have a Gmail address to complete the application. But they can put their reasons down why GFiber would be good.
You know, it's probably a good idea too to have your friends go to. There's a speed test in Missoula, which is I think it's just missoula.speedtest.net.
Montana Speed Test.
Is it Montana?
Or
So maybe just Google Missoula
The
speed
new
test.
speed test that's
Yeah, it's
checking
posted
the
by Mon
broadband
West.
for the
I don't
state.
even know the address.
Yeah, it's montanaspeedtest.org.
Montana speed test. You know, and just have them see what their current speed is. And
Yeah.
at the meeting last week, they
And that's
talked
one of the
about-
things that they ask you to do actually on this
on
thing
the
is
application,
to
that's
test
right.
your
That's right.
connection and see what it is. Were you surprised how
So this
slow
is
it
what
actually
you'll
was?
see when you go.
Especially with the upload speeds.
Yeah,
the
I was like,
upload
that's
speeds are
what it's supposed to be. Because I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then I looked at what it was supposed to be, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
The advertised rates versus the actual are often very different, more than you would expect.
Well, they tend to take those during 1 o'clock in the morning when there's very, very low traffic. So yes, you get those speeds, but only if you stay up between 1 and 4.
Oh yeah. You can have a few if you want.
Good to meet you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.
I still think they'll, even if we don't get a good showing, I think they'll still look at it as a presentation.
I think so.
Great.
They're not going to just listen to the
And we've been talking a lot about like what we can get out of it, but
Chris is going to CGI of 2,000 people.
yeah, Google will look at what they want to get out of it. It was the place to test new technologies and to where a higher internet connection can really have an impact on how people use the internet.
And we're, I mean, our state is extremely low. This is a very poor area that they can show a huge, take a huge up, which is great.
Yeah.
So they're looking for struggle.
Yeah.
State areas. So that's the only good thing.
Yeah.
Speed.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Thanks for coming down.